This is Tall Tale TV, your podcast for sci-fi and fantasy short stories. Of Tyrants and Teakettles by Lesley Herron. Chapter 1, Potentiala. Damn it! Why do you never listen to me? Vel was too busy wrestling with a writhing mass of black, inky goo to pay attention to whatever nonsense his brother was shouting at him. He slammed his mechanical fist into what seemed to be the creature's face, flinching a little as it showered him with a spray of thick, syrupy ooze. He instinctively let go to claw away the tar that had struck him in the eye. Evan bounded forward, his tiny knives sinking uselessly into the side of the gooey monster. "It's getting away!" The undulating mass slid back and forth, evading the minuscule murk with ease, crawling its way toward the swirling, interdimensional vortex they had used to lure it. Eric lunged at the creature, clawing at it, with little to no visible effect. "Vel, get over here! I can't hold it!" Vel scooped the goo from his face, flinging it to the ground as he got to his feet. "Do you have to keep yelling at me? I'm really getting tired of it." He rushed forward, sinking his mechanical hand deep into the gooey mass until he found something solid to latch onto. One of its many bones that the creature had absorbed from its prey to make up its own skeletal structure. Vel hauled backwards, stopping the creature mere inches from the portal entrance. "Got it!" Eric stepped back, hurriedly wiping clean his glasses on the sleeve of his coat, shaking his head as he did. "I'm not yelling. It's just that we've been chasing this thing all over the realms, and you're not making it any easier. If you would just—" "Oh, I'm not making it any easier." Vel ducked as one of the creature's many limbs made a swipe at his head. "How about when you let it slime past you because it was too gooey for you to touch? Or when Fumblefingers over there dropped the portal locker and changed the gateway?" Evan shot Vel a hurt look. "It was covered in slime and all slippery." Vel grimaced as a gooey appendage slammed into his left side. "It took us 2 months to catch back up to the damn thing. But please, tell me again how I'm the one slowing you guys down." Vel repeatedly pummeled his free hand into the creature, trying to get it to settle down. It only enraged it farther, as it thrashed wildly, coating him in yet more of the foul black goo. All right, so maybe that wasn't the right choice of words to use, but Evan and I had just finished setting a trap for it, and if you had paid any attention, you would have known that. You keep rushing into these things like a bull in a china shop." Eric took a step back, his face pulling into an uneasy expression as he did. "We all want to get out of here, and it would be nice if you let others help." Vel spat out a mouthful of slime. "We've been hunting this creature for the last 9 months, and who knows if this is even the last of Alpha's minions. I just want to be done. I want to go home." "Will you stop thinking about yourself for once? We're in this together." Vel waved a hand down at the tiny merc by his side. Vel wrenched back with the full force of his cybernetic arm, taking his frustrations out on the monster that had kept him from his life of peace and quiet. The bone shattered, a large portion of it ripping free of the body. The monster wailed in pain, but it was free from Vel's grasp. With a quick jerk of its body, it vanished into the swirling gate. Vel used his other hand to clear his face of goo as he gave a heavy, defeated sigh. Evan gave a nervous chuckle. "You said Granny blew up the west of your house, so technically, you don't have a home to go back to." Vel whipped around and glared down at the tiny mercenary. "It's stuff like that makes me want to void your contract and leave you on some godforsaken crap planet." Hey, those contracts are binding. You can't void them. And besides, you promised my granny that you would bring me back. Do you really want to cross her? Vel gave a bit of a shudder at the thought, but tried to play it off with a shrug. Honestly, at this point, it might be worth it. Enough! Stop fighting and pay attention. Eric pushed his glasses back up the bridge of his nose and pulled out the portal locker. The creature already has a decent head start, so we're gonna have to work fast. I think I can lock the gateway, sealing the creature in. It will only be able to return to this realm or stay stuck in a loop of infinite time and space. His brother's voice faded away as Vel's cybernetic computer began running probabilities.
Margin for error, 320%.
Ever since his total system reboot, the AI had reset its own protocols and became the annoying onboard computer he had never wanted. It offered computational errors, slim probabilities, and just an overall air of annoyance.
Might I suggest a different plan?
No, shut up, Vel growled, and with a swift movement of his head, he silenced his AI and removed all the on-screen information. Hey, it's a good plan. Eric pointedly looked over to his brother, his hands on his hips. Vel rolled his eyes. Whatever. 9 months is far too long to be stuck hopping through gates and chasing evil through all the realms. He wasn't about to spend another 9 hunting this one down when it was right there on the other side. With a few quick steps, he launched himself headfirst into the portal. Hopefully, this was the last ooze beast. Eric threw his hands up in defeat. Or we can just not listen to anyone else. Bull in a china shop it is. It didn't matter how many times Vel jumped, or how many gates and portals he had been through. He could never get used to the feelings. Each one was different, and nearly all of them were unpleasant. This one felt like he was being forced through a straw, air compressing in around him in almost a vacuum-like fashion. His on-screen computer briefly flashed that high percentage of failure. I know. Keep it to yourself. He could see the goo beast up ahead, clawing at the walls of reality, trying to propel itself faster. Behind him, he heard 2 little squelching pops, presumably his brother and the pint-sized pipsqueak. As the creature neared the exit, Eric fiddled with his aptly named portal locker, a small device he had created to alter the destination and integrity of interdimensional gateways. Originally, it had been devised as a way to get them back to their homeworld after they had been trapped in the human dimension. But along the way, they had unleashed not only the gooey monster before them, but its creator, an entity that had wiped out its own dimension in an attempt to spread into all the others. With their creator dead, the remaining goo creatures escaped into unknown worlds. It wasn't exactly a fun journey, but Eric would be lying if he said he wasn't intrigued by all the new realms they had visited. Eric turned a knob and pressed a series of buttons. Here goes nothing. The wormhole around them shuddered, and the exit slammed closed. Up ahead, Vel saw the creature crash into the now solid barrier, clawing at the walls of reality. Hot damn! His brother had actually managed something. Even though he was clearly impressed, his onboard computer felt differently. It responded by recalculating its original margin for failure. The result dropped by a single number. Oh, now you're just being rude, Vel snapped. He had more to say to the snippy computer, but bit back his words as the goo creature noticed him. Its black, undulating body rippled with anger as it opened all of its maws. This abomination, like the others of its kind, was compiled of so many consumed animals that the beast itself didn't know what it was supposed to be. It had too many eyes, too many mouths, and far too many limbs. And every one of those limbs were outstretched as the creature pushed off and launched itself straight towards Vel. He jammed the heel of his boot against the side of the vortex, trying to maneuver away from the goo beast. Perhaps it was just because he was a fully functioning entity and not a mass of molecules playing pretend, but he wasn't able to interact with the edges of the portal the same way the creature had. Instead of propelling him forward, his foot sunk ankle-deep into nothingness. The pain that followed was like being electrocuted. It was blinding, causing him to seize up and convulse. He couldn't avoid the goo beast now, and remained motionless as the creature collided with him. The impact wrenched his ankle free, and the pair spun wildly inside the tunnel between worlds. Vel struggled to keep himself away from the walls as he wrestled with the beast. He caught sight of Eric and Evan watching him.
"Okay, so we have it trapped. What now?"
Eric shrugged.
"I don't know. We weren't supposed to be in here when I trapped it. You added that part of the plan when you didn't listen to me."
Vel cursed under his breath and drove a knee into the creature's middle, using his momentum to pivot it around and press it hard into the walls of the vortex. The creature screamed in pain, baring its thousands of teeth at him as it narrowed hundreds of angry red eyes. Red bolts of light and time shot around and through them. The beast was acting as a conduit, sending waves of electricity through its own body and into Vel's. Vel clenched his teeth hard, fighting past the pain shooting throughout him. The creature howled even louder as the spinning edges of the vortex started to tear its body apart. The thin membrane between realities and nothing tore at it, warped and sliced into it, and goo began to fly off into the black expanse of nothingness. Eric's eyes went wide as he saw the fabric of the portal start to shred beneath the assault.
"Bad idea! Bad idea!"
He began fiddling with his portal locker again, trying to reopen the other end of the tunnel. Vel persisted. It was almost dead. The more of it that was torn away, the weaker its flailing became. He might have felt guilty if he had not seen firsthand the remorseless way these creatures had killed hundreds of his own people. And then they were sinking, further and further into the sides of the portal. Panic set in, and Vel pushed back against the goo creature's assaults. It was snapping at his face, bearing down on him with a thirst to kill. The beast gave a final snap of its many maws before enveloping Vel's arm in a thick layer of tar. A dark smile pulled at the main mouth of the creature as it continued to add more and more goo, trapping the cyborg's arm deeper within itself. Vel struggled to pull free, confusion written on his features. He looked back to see his brother reaching out to grab him, terror flashing in his eyes. Vel reached out, his fingertips grazing Eric's, and then the entire portal unraveled, and they were torn apart as though in the grasp of a tornado.
Chance of survival, 4%. Goodbye.
Then black. Everything hurt. Vel's muscles ached in protest as he began to stir. He tried to sit up, but when a high-pitched ringing tore through his body, he stopped. It was flaring up enough pain that it threatened to return him to unconsciousness. He settled on laying there, face down on the hard ground.
System malfunctions in 19 locations. Solution suggestion, repair.
"Oh, give it a rest,"
Vel groaned as he pried open his eyes. He was in what looked like a darkened alleyway, one nestled in between two brick structures. There were doorways that lined the walls, with gas lamps hanging above each one, illuminating the alleyway in a flickering gray haze. Tall cylindrical cans sat at every opening, several overflowing with trash, including the one that had broken his fall, along with a stack of old wooden crates. Vel reached for the nearest wall, using the rough bricks to haul himself to his feet. He shook away the ringing in his ears and began assessing the damage. He flexed the fingers of his mechanical arm gingerly, testing their functionality. His arm seemed to be in working order, but his wrist gave a concerning clicking noise when he tried to bend it. Well, at least it was his robotic arm, and not the other. That would have been a bit more problematic. A gentle breeze snaked through the alley, and the stench of sea air and Port City hit him like a slap in the face, staggering him back a step. It was ripe with a salty tinge, and what he could only guess was a fish market. He wrinkled his nose and turned on his heel to head for the alley's exit.
Come on, guys. Let's get out of here. I hate this smell.
No response. Vel stopped, looking back over his shoulder. Where he had expected to see his brother and Evan collapsed in a heap behind him, there was only an empty alley. There wasn't even a portal to mark where he had entered.
That's not good.
Vel looked around him, making sure he hadn't simply missed them somewhere. He sighed, lowering his voice, and said,
Computer?
Yes.
Can you scan this realm for the portal locker's frequency?
It was a trick that he had stolen from Alpha, the mad deity that had chased them throughout the multiverse. It had taken some tinkering, but Eric had helped him determine a way to track the signal in case they got separated.
Scanning.
Vel scratched nervously at the back of his head, feeling foolish for standing there in the middle of a darkened alleyway, talking to himself. He didn't know how long it would take for his computer to pick up on the frequency, but he had to get back to his brother, or at the very least, find a way out of this fish market.
No frequency located. Scan again?
Vel furrowed his brow.
No, we probably landed on the opposite side of the portal when it collapsed. Try scanning for a gate.
Scanning.
Vel dragged a hand down his chin. He was starting to worry. They had never disrupted a vortex like that, and he wasn't exactly sure what that could have done. With luck, Eric was sitting on the other side of a nearby gate. But on the other hand...
Number of portals located, 0.
Vel felt a cold sweat start to form on his brow.
Extend the range of scan?
Scan already encompasses entire terrestrial body.
Vel began to pace up and down the alley. Okay, so he was stuck on a world with no immediate way off. Not a great situation, but it could be worse. At least this realm seemed to have life. He could have landed on a dead world where he would have starved. No, this was not so bad. Besides, Eric was a genius. He was probably fiddling with some dial or setting on that damned portal locker of his to track down Vel right now. Unless, of course, that smoldering hunk of metal over there at the base of a trash can was, in fact, the portal locker. He bent down, plucking the small, blackened device off the ground. Vel suddenly felt like lying down again, and gave a heavy, shaky sigh.
Damn it.
Of Tyrants and Teakettles is Book 2 of the ongoing Sci-Fantasy series by author Lesley Herron. Join us as the adventure unfolds, with new chapters releasing every few weeks. Okay, so let's go over this one more time. Good idea. So it's lured here by the portal and steps into the kill zone where we have a rudimentary pitfall trap covered with leaves. Wait. At the bottom of the pit is a pressure plate, which strikes the flint and lights the rope on fire. Check. The rope snaps, releasing the boulder, which rolls down the ramp, triggering the flaming arrow and eventually knocking over the barrel full of rusty nails on top of it. Sounds good so far. Then the flaming arrows hit the hornet's nest, dropping it into the cave full of angry bears, forcing them out where the first thing they see... this plan just seems a little complex, don't you think? Are you kidding me? It's foolproof. The only way it could go wrong is if... There it is! Charge! As if Vel gets to it first.
Aw, man, and I spent so much time getting the spinning saw of death just right.